And during those years, I started having a family. I started to scale a business. I was doing all sorts of other initiatives. And yet I had this sort of thing that I was hiding. This crutch, if you will, that was allowing me to function. And it came to a head, 14 years ago, where it just got so out of control. I had a double life.
Hello and welcome to my podcast, Become. My name is Sabine Kvenberg and I am your host. The content will inspire you to reach your aspirations and become the best version of yourself. I feature interviews with successful individuals from various industries delving into their personal and professional journey, how they overcame adversities, and the strategies they used to achieve their goals. We have to become the person we are meant to be first, so we can live the life we are destined to live. That also means we must overcome challenges and work through difficult times to learn, grow, and become the next, more fabulous version of ourselves. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's get on this journey together. Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to have Di Manuel on my show today. How are you, my friend?
Wonderful. And it's a beautiful way to start my week, having this nice conversation with you. So, I can't complain.
Di, I just love your positive attitude and personality. And before we start, I would like to give my listeners a little background of who you are. Di Manuel is a super dad dating his wife with a lead by example way of living and a contagious personality who is on a mission to positively impact 1 million role models around the globe to lead a functional, fit life through education, encouragement, and community. He is an award-winning digital thought leader and author, distinguished Toastmaster, TEDx speaker, former partner and chief operating officer of a multi-million-dollar retail company, and a sought-after lifestyle mentor and executive performance coach. Whoo! That is quite an impressive bio. Reading your bio, it almost sounds like you had a perfect life. But I know we all are on our own journeys, including overcoming challenges and obstacles that lead us to growth. What was the journey that led you to become a successful entrepreneur, loving husband, and a super dad?
Well, thanks for asking. Like anyone, my journey has not been a straight line. There's been ups and downs and over and unders and throughs and backtracking to go, like going back 100 steps so I could go forward 200 steps, right? Like it's a journey, right? We hear that term when we reference people in our lives and how we're living them, and it is a journey. And yes, I understand it's easy to focus on a destination or to have a goal set or to have some intention on where we want to get to. But if we're not really clear on where we're at and how we got there, it's hard to see potentially the connection of who we were to who we are now to who we are intentionally wanting to become. And so believe me, I know this very, very well. I've been in a lot of situations where change has not necessarily come easily. In fact, it's been very, very challenging. And I've been in a few situations in my life where, had I not worked through that change and worked through being vulnerable enough to ask for help, I don't think we'd be having this conversation today. I don't think my wife and I would have endured to 23 years. I don't think I would have had some of the successes that I've had in my life.
What happened to you?
Well, things started out, as a teenager. I was morbidly obese, and that wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a gradual process that took about 5.5, 6 years of me self-medicating, learning to subdue certain emotions that I was experiencing and challenges that I was dealing with internally. Things like social anxiety was very real for me. I was very introverted. And as a result of some of these things and lack of understanding of some of the things that I was navigating internally, these feelings, and not having a way of talking about it or letting them out or asking for help, I learned pretty quickly that I could watch movies, play video games, and eat certain types of foods. And now, please note, I wasn't saying, "Hey, can you pass me some more salad, please?" All right, it was like, no, it was foods that
Yeah.
created a very quick emotional uplift.
Yeah.
That little dopamine hit that we get when we have something really sugary or really starchy, very refined. The body's energy spikes, and we get this emotional high. And I recognized I had a lot of control over that. I just choose what I eat, I put it in my mouth, and I get this emotional uplift. And for a moment, I'm able to avoid that social anxiety, some of those other stresses that were in my life. And, but that's not something that's sustainable, especially on a healthy way. And over 6 years, I got to a point where I was morbidly obese.
Wow.
And that only compounds things, it makes them more challenging. And
Yes.
so at 15, got to a place where I had a lot of suicidal ideations. I was dealing with my social anxiety. I was dealing with health complications because of my obesity. And I just realized that, if I don't start to make some changes, life isn't going to be any better 5 years from then. Like at 15, I was like, okay, well, by 20, will things be different? And I had to really get honest with myself and be like, if I don't change what I'm doing right now, I know in the next 5 years, it ain't going to feel better than it does today. And because I recognized, at 10, 5 years before, but as I started to put the weight on, it didn't feel as challenging as it did now at 15. So, it's, again, understanding where we came from, where we are now, and where we want intending to go next. Unless we're clear on all those areas, it's really hard to know what to do, how to do it, and more importantly, why do we want to do it, And so that was it. I set off on another journey where I
Yeah.
just said to myself, I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be more than what I was as that morbidly obese teenager. And, I set in motion a path that took 20 months to realize. So it took me almost 6 years to put all that weight on, but it only took me 20 months to take it off.
How and
And
with
yeah,
age 15, so you were
mm-hmm.
that's when you made that decision, which is
Correct.
great. I mean, as a
Thank you.
teenager, already being there,
Mm-hmm.
being aware of that. So there must be something that sparked that thought
Mm-hmm.
of, hey, did you look in the mirror? Did you had a specific
Oh, yeah.
experience that triggered? No, I have to start eating better, making better choices, exercise. So, what was that turning point for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was at my father's place, and to be fair, a lot of my challenges, at least the mental health challenges, started to arise when my parents let my brother and I know they were separating and ultimately divorced. I was 9 at the time. My brother was about 7, and it rocked my world, And to date myself, I'm 46 now, and this is going back, gosh, 35 years, and so 35 years ago, the idea of divorce wasn't very popular, like it just, there was more people that stayed married than there were people getting divorced at that time. And also, when I looked around all the kids in my class of 30 students, there was only one other kid that didn't have his original parents still together. So, the large majority of people weren't experiencing that. And so there wasn't a lot of resources. There wasn't a lot of support materials to deal with children of divorcees. And also, as I tell my kids, I'm older than the internet, like
Yes.
I was born before Google, because my kids are like, why don't you just Google it, Dad? I'm like, well, I'm older than Google. You guys don't get this, And so, there just wasn't a lot of support. And I remember being at my dad's at age 15, and very specifically, I was in the washroom having a shower, and I used to have this little hack where I would stay in the shower, turn the heat up extra high before I would get out, for about a minute or two, because it would guarantee that by the time I got out of that shower, when it came to toweling off, the mirror would always be covered in condensation. It gets all
Wow.
foggy, so I wouldn't have to look at myself. Like I avoided cameras and social settings, and especially looking at myself. But that one morning, I was being rushed by my dad. We had somewhere to go. And I remember him knocking on the door. Come on, you got to go. We got to get out of here. And so I was rushed out of the shower before I had my chance to turn it up real high. And when I got out, I saw in my peripheral, my silhouette, if you will. And I decided to turn as I was toweling off. And I just, for some reason, I locked eyes on myself. And then I did the full body scan. I started to look down and then look up. By the time I got back up, I had a towel off my chest again because the tears were just flowing. You know, it was like Niagara Falls for those that are aware of that wonder of the world. You know, it was just literally, it was uncontrollable sobbing, and but it was very cathartic. It was a big release, and at that moment, I really saw myself. I saw what I was and who I was, and more importantly, what I did not want to be any longer.
Wow.
And I left out of that washroom and I went and found my dad. And this is the craziest thing. I just said to my dad, I'm like, after, of course, I got clothed first and found him before we left. And I was like, Dad, I want to get healthy. I don't want to be like this anymore. And, you know, up to that point, my parents were very supportive. They were willing to do whatever it would take to get me healthy because they wanted their son to be happy. And they could see that I wasn't. And as a father now of two, you know, teen, almost young adult girls, I recognize that now. I understand what my parents were trying to do. However, every time they came to me to offer help or support, and I think everybody that's listening or watching this can probably relate to this. You know, when we're feeling really low, we're in that hard situation. And those that are around us that love us unconditionally, they often want to support us. They'll come and they'll offer help. They'll give us ideas on things that we could do to move us forward. But every time they came to me with an idea, I was like, you're telling me I'm not good enough the way I am.
Yeah.
You're telling me that you want me to change.
It really comes down to ourselves at the end. There can be so many people who wanted something for us. They know it would be good for us, but it's not working if we are not ready. And right. I remember my husband sharing with me, it is many, many years back, he was smoking, but he did not see himself as a smoker, which is very interesting. And for several years, you know, and I tried everything, said, come on, honey, it's not good, and can you stop, and it doesn't smell good, and whatever, right? But it didn't make a difference to him until this one time that he was sitting in his car and he was smoking, and he saw himself in the side mirror. And that in that moment, he thought, oh my gosh, I'm a smoker. He flicked out the cigarette, and that was it. And he did not touch another cigarette. That's the turning point, you know, just what you shared. So you said in this moment, you realized that you were aware, and that is so important for everyone who's listening. At the end, it comes down to ourselves. If you are ready, and if you allow yourself to be ready, and if you are self-aware of whatever it is. So I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. And please, full disclosure, you know, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't make mention of this, is that, you know, I didn't know what to do or how to do it yet. Like, I didn't have the answer. I knew I wanted to change, but I wasn't sure how to do it yet. And I know that can be a big limiting factor for a lot of us to make change, you know, and especially intentional change, because we're like, I don't know what to do. And you know, we go on Google and we start typing in something, how to do such and such. And all of a sudden you get 2 million resources shared with you. And it's like, oh gosh, where do I start? How do I, like, I know change is very intimidating, you know, but I invite people, you know, be a champion of change or an advocate of change for yourself.
What was your motivation to lose the weight?
Well, if I'm perfectly honest, you know, as that teen boy making those changes, a big motivation for me was I actually wanted a girlfriend. Okay, like I did. I saw the other kids having those interactions with girls, and I wanted that. You know, I wanted to have somebody want me. I wanted to feel loved. You know, appreciated. Like, and so that was an underpinning motivation for me to get healthy, because I believed if I got healthy, you know, that would now come. You know, I'd be more desirable. People would want to know me more. And what I realized was, on the surface, yes, things started to change. And so I started to have more interactions with people. I would get invited to certain parties. But I realized I was still seeing myself as that morbidly obese teen. Like, I still believe that's who I was. And it's really hard, right? Like, when we find ourselves limiting ourselves with some of these beliefs, and we have this certain warped perspective on who we think we are, because it will start to impact everything that we do. And so I found myself in these social settings and still feeling very socially awkward and feeling very, very anxious. And I remember very distinctly being offered a beer for the first time. And I had the drink. And, I was maybe 17 and a half. And I was like, whoa, I feel different. I'll have another one of those, please. and I know after 2 or 3 of those drinks, all of a sudden, that social anxiety just sort of went away. I found myself being able to talk to people. I felt myself feeling different about myself. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Now, this is a very slippery slope, mind you, okay? Because all of a sudden I started to believe that person that I was when I was drinking was actually the person people wanted to be connected with, to hang out with. That was the one that they wanted to invite along. And this very quickly shaped my opinion of myself to the point that became a normal thing for me, was drinking, to be socially accepted, or at least believe that was making me socially accepted. And this set in motion a very, very strong habit in my life that endured for 16 years, from age 17, almost 18, until age 33. And during those years, I started having a family. I started to scale a business. I was doing all sorts of other initiatives. And yet I had this sort of thing that I was hiding. This crutch, if you will, that was allowing me to function. And it came to a head, 14 years ago, where it just got so out of control. I had a double life. And here I am, someone that's very prominent in the health and wellness industries, especially in Canada and in North America. Like I've been in the health and fitness space for 28 years and very actively supporting others with those changes. And so I had this sort of persona that people believe me to be. And yet on the flip side, I was practicing this very unhealthy lifestyle habit, and it was more of a ritual than a habit. And I would justify that, vehemently, probably similar to your husband, until he came to that realization, saw himself in the mirror, saw himself smoking, and said, you know what, I am a smoker, and I don't want to be one. And so I got to a place where, after an all-night bender, coming home, my wife being extremely distraught, because this was as they say, par for the course, for those that are like the golf references. It was so normalized for us in our relationship that I would often beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. And I would often say, I'm just meeting a client, I'll be out for one drink, and then not come home until 3 a.m. I wouldn't answer my phone. I would ignore those text messages, and this was just normal. And she got to the point, she's like, I don't want to accept this as normal anymore. Our daughters were both under the age of 6, 14 years ago. And she's like, this is not a healthy environment to raise our kids in. We're done. We have to go separate ways. Like, this is just, we cannot allow our children to be around this any longer. And it was in that moment, I was crying, she was crying, it was just a very, very tense moment, because we both love each other very dearly. And yet she was right. And I think that was the realization for me, was like, gosh, she is right. And I didn't know what to do. And, my wife, in a moment of clarity, asked me a very specific question. And, if anybody doesn't take anything away from our conversation today, this is the only thing I want you to remember, okay, is this one impactful question that my wife had the foresight to ask me.
Let me hop in here real quick to share something with you. Have you ever tried to build your own website, start a newsletter, or build a course and charge for it? Have you ever wanted to make money online but are totally confused by all the different systems you need to have? That's why I use Kajabi. Kajabi is the most popular system for online marketers, coaches, thought leaders, and influencers. Kajabi helps online entrepreneurs take off. Over 100,000 of us use Kajabi and have made over $4 billion. Why not be part of it? The best thing is, you don't have to figure out tons of systems or crazy technology to start your online business. Kajabi helps you do all of that, and it's all on one platform. That's why I use it. It makes my life so much easier, and I can even earn money while I'm sleeping. You can build your web pages, blogs, and membership sites. You can create offers, checkout pages, and collect money. You can host your videos. You can start your newsletter list, capture emails, start your marketing funnels, all in one place. It makes it fun and easy with awesome tutorials and support. Since I've joined Kajabi from the beginning, I have a special affiliate link that I would like to share with you. A 30-day free trial. So nothing to lose, but everything to gain. Just go to my link that's in the show notes, sabinekvenberg.com/resources, and we will redirect you to the free trial page. And if you are just starting out and want to get your offer out for sale in just 3 days, let me help you do that. Visit my webpage, by the way, that I built on Kajabi, and apply to making it happen. So now let's get back to the show.
That day, as we're discussing what separated lives could look like, co-parenting our children, like literally, my entire life, everything that I valued was about to crumble. And she asked me this one question: Di, are you being the type of man that you would want to marry your daughters?
Whoa.
I'll say it again. Yeah, exactly. I know, right? It's like, I've got this so it's just funny. I've got this plastic mic here, because when I speak, I'm like, drop the mic, It was like one of those moments
Yes.
where I was like, oh my goodness, I am not. I would absolutely, I started to envision, my daughter's of age to start dating, and a man like me at that time showing up on the doorstep and saying, hey, we're here to take your daughter. I'd be like, there's no way you're getting across my door frame here, go away. But that's who I was modeling. That's what I was saying, as a man, as a husband, as a business owner, as a community leader. That is what I was implying through my actions. And it was in that moment, similar to your husband, it was like, holy smokes, I'm a drinker. And this is not a habit I want to continue. And it was in that moment I made a commitment to my wife, to my daughters, that I was going to go 1 year without drinking. Now, I know people are out there listening to this. 1 year? I mean, that's not a big deal. I'm like, hey, from age 17 till 33, the longest I'd ever done without drinking was like those, sober Januaries. Like that, and I did that twice. So you can think it's only been 2 months out of almost 14 years where I spent that time sober, or 16 years, sorry. And so it was a big deal to me to make a 1 year commitment. And I'm going to just skip to the end on this one. So, I got to doing work. It was really, really hard. I didn't realize how dysfunctional I was until I took away the alcohol. I took away the alcohol. It's like taking away crutches from someone that's got a broken leg. It's like, holy smokes, I can't walk yet. I got to rehab this leg. I got to strengthen it. I got to look at the bone heal before I can start to walk again, let alone try to jog or run. And here I was, the crutches were removed. And I realized, holy smokes, I don't know how to function. And it was in that moment, first time in my life, I really got vulnerable with my wife. I let her know about how I was feeling. I let her know about how I was constantly thinking about this social anxiety and the way I felt around big groups of people, feeling like a fraud, feeling like an imposter, just feeling so challenged by everything in life. And that alcohol was that thing that would allow me to get through all that. And I just shared it all with her. I was like a verbal bleh. I laid it all out on the table. And thank goodness my wife looked at me and she was like, you know what? Thanks for letting me know. And then she followed it up. I think we need to find someone that you can speak to, and to be fair, because she's like, I'm your partner in life. I'm your wife. And I can be here to support you with this, but I think we need to find someone that you can speak to really talk through these things. And this is my first time ever looking at therapy. And I was great. I found a therapist. I found a psychologist, and I started working with them. And I only worked with them for about 4.5 months. Like, it's amazing. But when you make a decision to go all in and do the work, it's amazing how quickly changes can happen.
Absolutely. But it starts with being aware of your situation and then making the decision to change. So the work that you did overcoming these addictions and limiting beliefs literally saved your marriage, made you become a better dad, and now coaching others, right?
Yeah, I coach, I mentor. I like to think more of myself as a mentor to individuals. And the only reason I say that is the majority of the people I tend to attract and work with are people that are on similar journeys, that I've been on or am currently on or plan to go on, and and quite frankly, it's mentorship from the standpoint I tend to have a lot of personal experience in the areas that they're looking for support. And so I look at it more mentorship wise because I can honestly say, well, listen, I know you're thinking of doing that, but I tried that, and here's what happened, and it's great because I can give a deeper insight than just coaching. And coaching is wonderful because it's a great skill to have to help people see things or achieve things that maybe they didn't realize that they could. And there's a very specific flow to being an effective coach, as you know, and as other listeners, most likely, if you've had any sort of experience with coaches, whether it be a middle, I was going to say a coach, through your organizations that you're a part of or through your school. There's just so many different opportunities for us to be coached in life. But when we have that mentorship relationship, it's just a little bit deeper. The conversations tend to go a little bit differently, because it's not so much talking about the theory and the ideas of certain things. It's actually getting into the nuts and bolts of what actually happens when certain things are done based on personal experience. It's knowledge in application. And so that's sort of the approach I like to take in my life, both personally, how I navigate my own choices, but also how I love to support others.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Thank
If
you.
someone wants to get in touch with you, they might be on a similar path, want to get healthy because you're in the health field. How can they do that?
Well, I'm a pretty social guy, considering how someone that dealt with a lot of social anxiety. I'm very much out there now. And because I made a decision a long time ago, and I know there's many other people that are listening or watching this right now, that you're on fantastic journeys that are destined to make great impact if you're not already making impact in your local to global communities. And you recognize sometimes there's a story we want to tell. And so how do we tell it? How do we amplify it? Well, we're pretty lucky that we have access to some amazing tools today that allow us to reach a global audience. So I'm on all the social media platforms, and you can find me pretty easily. If you can spell my name, you'll find me. And Dai, D-A-I, is a Welsh name for David. Manuel is a Portuguese last name. And I know everyone's like, wow, Welsh and Portuguese, that's a mix. And I'm like, hey, I'm Canadian. Don't worry about it, eh? Okay, so if you can type in Dai Manuel, you'll find me. Shoot me a DM. I am the only person that manages my social. I don't have a team of people doing that stuff for me because communications and connection is so important to me that I do it myself. So my only request is that if you send me a message, please give me a little grace. Give me a couple days to get back to you. But that's the easiest way for us to connect.
And I'll make sure to put your contact information in the show notes so people can do that. I just want to say thank you. It was so insightful, and it was great to hear your story on a little bit deeper level, and that there is a way out to change. If you are ready, if you are not afraid anymore to look at yourself first and see what it is, and then without shaming or anything else, you can make a decision to change, to improve, and with that, become a better husband, a better wife, a better father, dad, mom, whatever. You always become better. And that's what this is all about. We have to become the person we are meant to be so we can live the life we are destined to live. Thank you so much, Dai, for being here and sharing this with our listeners.
Thank you. It was such a wonderful opportunity to connect with you again and to be here on this amazing platform that you've cultivated and put together and curated. And I just want to say thank you because I know it takes a lot of time and energy and resources to do this kind of work. And I just want to say thank you for doing it, for all of us to enjoy and to learn and to grow and to be mentored by someone like yourself and the people that you bring on. So I just feel fortunate to be a small part of this online conversation that you started many, many moons ago. And you know what? I'm looking forward to you to continue doing this, and I'll be listening.
That was my interview. And if you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Thanks for listening. Until I see you again, always remember, serve from the heart, follow your passion, and live the life you imagine.